Hello, everyone, once again to the Wasteland voice actor interview. I'm still working on that title, even though it's a mouthful. Today, we are interviewing another one of our main four soldier characters. We have Billy here. Billy, hello.
Hello, I am Billy. I am a person that throws for content, and I have played a numerous amounts of Resident Evil games, probably a lot.
And of course, I do Lads Discuss Step Battle with Billy.
Indeed, that's probably one of my most viewed series on my channel, if I had to be honest.
True. But also, so was 3 a.m. at the Krusty Krab.
And surprisingly, Oakwood as well is catching up. I recently was checking, and it's nearly at 1,000 views.
Nice.
Also, like it when I play dinosaur horrors.
So, just like the Kier and Damien interview, if you guys have not seen those interviews, take a look at them in the description below. We're going to be talking to Bill about his character, about his teammates, and about some of the stuff that's going to be happening in the game of Wasteland as the game goes on. And unlike both Damien and Kier, Billy has actually played Wasteland 3.
Yeah, it's quite funny because I had to go at Wasteland 2 because they had actually I had to go at the first one as well because they were all on Game Pass. I had to admit though I couldn't get into one as much. I got a few hours into the game. Didn't exactly click with me, and it's a very old game. The second one was not too bad, but I felt like the graphics were a bit janked for it because I was going into it with the XCOM mindset because I've played both Enemy Unknown and XCOM 2. I have yet to play War of the Chosen, so I don't know how much the game's changed in that. Yeah, Wasteland 2 kind of threw me off because I was just so used to XCOM's gameplay.
Yeah, and you got pretty far into Wasteland 3 because you like it, from what I understand.
Yeah, I figured I'd finally give Wasteland 3 a go, and at first I was kind of still trying to get used to the controls because it was how it works is it's just typical. You got two actions of each character, and then they get to move. It's more so that you got a certain amount of actions, and in fact, I completely didn't understand it. I thought it was kind of cool that I could have my main guy do two shots in one go. I forgot as well because my guy wasn't that high level in terms of his accuracy. He didn't get much damage on the first attack.
Yeah, we'll be talking more about the Wasteland mechanic later in the interview as well. And for those of you who did not watch my earlier Wasteland videos, Bill was actually one of the original characters I casted. And pretty much.
Yeah, and
Go ahead.
I had to admit, I don't really see myself carrying a pistol in a lot of those type of games. I've always either seen myself a shotgun or an automatic machine gun. But of course, you can't. It's really unless you can somehow balance it well enough. It's hard to give characters two sort of main weapons.
Yeah, and just like back then, I kind of modeled his original character after Leon Kennedy, which is because at the time Bill was doing a Let's Play of Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, which was one of my favorite games I let's played last year. It was really wacky and crazy.
Yeah, and honestly, some of those aspects I wanted to keep with the relaunch of the game. Like, you're still going to have him be the medic, and you're still going to be the wielder of submachine guns, of course. But you want to change up your third perk, from what I'm understanding.
Uh, um, because I remember, I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it was in Kier's interview. Well, I haven't even watched Damien's interview. I'm sorry, Damien, if you're watching this. Um, you said you were going to give me the kiss ass perk, and I was thinking to myself, to be fair, that's not a bad perk to have because if you have a hard ass, it's good to have a kiss ass as well. Because much like hard ass, this is more the nice one. I guess like prestige. What was it? Prestige. Was that the one in Mass Effect? And then there was the renegade personality.
Yeah, something like
I
that.
feel like having I feel like having two characters that are nice and one that's aggressive is a good balance, especially if, depending on what outcome you want. Like if you want to side with a certain faction, I feel like because you get that cone marshal guy, who I nicknamed in my game Marshal Matt, he has kiss ass, so it would make more sense just to keep him around and just level up his kiss ass stats. And even then, he's also an automatic machine gun user, so it makes more sense to keep him around more. Because I feel like submachine guns and automatic weapons are like the best, because they also get to have crossbows as well.
Yeah, that's a lot to consider as well when it comes to this game. And then, of course, the only reason I thought of giving you Kiss Ass was because Kier's character is going to be the hard ass, so I just thought it'd be funny.
The, enough, this is going to be kind of funny towards, and especially when we talk about my character. I kind of feel like I want to give my character the big guns perk,
Okay.
or for the reason of using a flamethrower, because a flamethrower isn't an automatic weapon or an explosive, which is really funny. You would think it would be. No, it's actually the big gun slot.
Yeah, just imagine your medic with a machine gun and a giant flamethrower.
Yeah, when we do get to it, it is going to tie into the type of personality I want to give my guy.
Yeah, well, to be fair as well, Yang also finally decided what their third perk's also going to be, so I can reveal that.
Nice.
They are going to be lockpick as well as brawling and explosive.
You know what? That was actually something that is important for Wasteland because I've played a lot of Wasteland 3, especially because you need to mostly do a lot of the side missions. If you're trying to go into this game focusing on the main missions first, then doing side ones, that is a good way to get yourself killed a lot, especially if you're playing on permadeath mode.
Mm-hmm.
There's been times I've found like a door that required a level 9 lock picker, and it was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, apparently Yang chose that perk because that's what they always max out in Skyrim.
Yeah, or at least you can get the skeleton key in that game as well, and just have unlimited lockpick.
That's true. But
That's what I did.
is Big Guns going to be your final selection of your character's perk, or do you think there's something else that you want to go with?
No, because I feel like Big Gun's pretty good, because if you were to do a lot of the side missions and unlock a lot of certain companions you can unlock, like there is this girl you meet at the marshal's apartment where she has a revolver, she's small guns, I think she's also a survivalist, and she also has the toaster repairs. I was thinking of you could give my guy toaster repairs. If you're going to recruit her as well on the same mission, then you might as well just give me the big guns, because I don't think there's any side characters that uses big guns that you can recruit as far as I know.
That's fair. Plus, it is your character, and you can decide what you want.
I suppose there's that.
Yeah. Speaking of characters, why don't we talk about your character now for a bit?
Yes.
Now, it's up to you if you want to change his name, but his name so far is going to be Billy the Doc Bobby.
Can you fit all that on one character in that game?
I could fit Billy Bobby, but the Doc's just going to be a thing when I do like editing stuff for nicknames and stuff. You all got nicknames.
Okay. I actually like it. One, it captures my YouTube username, so, and also the Doc, because I kind of like it. That's what I'm nicknaming amongst the Rangers, because it goes into sort of his personality, because he's technically not really a doctor, but during like the hard times the Rangers are going through in Arizona, Billy's kind of the last resort in terms of a doctor they could find.
I mean, we have compared you to both Dr. Zed from Borderlands and Dr. Zoidberg from Futurama.
I have yet to play any of the Borderland games, but Zoidberg would actually be a very fitting character because he's a good doctor, intelligent not so much, and he's also a bit of a... He's not exactly all there in the head, especially when it comes to performing like life-threatening surgeries.
But yeah, pretty
One
much.
of the first lines I recorded for you was, "Oh, I only found this medic kit in a dumpster, but I'm sure the equipment's still good to use."
Yeah, that's why with that voice line, I preface that you're a doctor, but barely.
Yeah, like I said, because At the point of Wasteland 3, doing too good, hence why they're going to Colorado because they're desperate for supplies, weaponry, and unfortunately they have to go to a dictator to get all this.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, they probably I like to imagine like they didn't want to risk sending their good doctors in case something backfired, so they sent them the most disposable one.
That's fair. We also talked a little bit about the character's backstory so far. So how was you? So your guy's just basically scraping by as a doctor. How did he learn like what he barely knows?
I wouldn't say he's scraping by, actually. I'd say he actually does know what he's doing. Of course, how I kind of act in real life, along with when I work in retail, was I'm very wacky and kind of like unpredictable with what I'm going to say and stuff like that. I kind of put that with this doctor, and I also kind of like the fact I make a lot of dark jokes as well, both online and on my workplace. The idea of my guy like questioning how exactly he uses like a syringe or a sewing kit is going to be very funny to hear the reactions of people.
Yeah.
Like, one thing I had in mind is like if one of our characters gets knocked out and they're on the floor bleeding to death, and I have to revive them, and I'm trying to read it, and I go like stare. Okay, well it says stare, so I'm assuming that means sterilized, but I don't know what the roid means at the end of it, and I just jab it into one of them. Like not really paying attention to what I'm because I'm very impatient as well in real life. I kind of figured like rather than reading the instructions, I just go with the flow.
So
Improvise as it happens.
yeah, you're pretty much like an improv doctor with a good sense of humor.
Yeah. Another joke I kind of thought about doing. If this takes place after a mission, maybe a character talks about how their arm feels dislocated, and I go, "Oh, I've got the tool for that," and I just pull out a chainsaw. I just go, "So, how do you want to do this? Swift or slow and painless?"
And that's gonna be interesting for sure. And I'm not sure how your squad mates will feel about your chainsaw.
I guess one more thing I wanted to add for this sort of character as well, because I kind of want this to be sort of his main gimmick. Because he's a very dedicated, quote unquote, doctor, he doesn't like the idea he's killing people. So, for instance, when he's needing equipment, I had this idea. He looks at maybe Yang's character, because she, as you said, she's going to be the explosive. And I go, "Hey, can you pass me one of those amputation balls?" And someone just asks, "Amputation what?" It's like, the ball that where you pull the ring out and you throw it and it amputates people. They're like, "You mean a grenade?" It's like, no, no, no. I don't like calling them their weapon names because it sounds like I'm committing murder, but I like to imagine I'm performing surgery, which is both life-threatening but also could be life-saving if something goes wrong. Because the whole doctor do no harm rule, so I kind of like he's very dedicated to that. So when he's even shooting people, he thinks of him performing surgery.
I think that'll be cool to try to portray in the character, honestly.
Maybe with each kill, I just say, lost another patient.
On to the next.
Yeah. It's just like, maybe I could even say like, it never gets easier. Well then. His morality is kind of questionable, and his sanity, which is kind of funny, because we're going to have Yang the Insane on our team. But yeah, I feel like my character's sanity is going to be brought into question a lot. Especially when we meet the more psychotic tribes and like factions.
It makes you wonder why Captain Fall is going to have this team. Who, by the way, is going. I showed you art for that guy already. That's going to be the superior officer character for the time being.
And I had to admit, very clever. We're Team November, and we have Fall as our captain.
See, thank you. Someone gets that joke.
Yeah, I thought that was quite clever. Like even before you said what it was, I was like, clever, clever.
Yeah. So why don't we move on to talk about your squad mates, unless you have anything else you want to add about Billy the Doc Bobby.
I think I've pretty much said everything that I feel like I'm going to put into this character when I do his lines.
Yeah. So let's move on to your squad mates, and you have 3 of them for the time being. Guest characters we'll bring up later. Your first one is going to be played by Kier. I'm going in order that I've interviewed people. Kier is going to be playing Flynn Kier McAllister. And of course, you obviously don't get the obvious reference of Flynn McAllister.
No, unfortunately not. I'm assuming it's a wrestler thing or a sports thing.
It's a Power Rangers thing.
Right, okay.
Have you ever heard the
I'm
I'm
assuming
Scottish meme?
Yeah, I kind of got reminded of that at one point. I was just like I really want to know the context of that whole scene from Power Rangers, because I think that was on the that was the one with the lion. No, not lion. Oh yeah, the lion Megazord, wasn't it?
I think so, but it's because the Blue Ranger is actually of Scottish nationality. That's why they say that line. Because they don't know what his specialty is, so he's just like, I'm Scottish!
It's gonna be funny because I'm not gonna try and do an American accent, especially an Arizona one. But to have a Scottish guy amongst the Arizona Rangers, that's gonna be funny.
Hey, look, you guys are desperate. You need anybody.
What's kind of funny about the Wasteland story, I don't think anyone in Arizona knows what a Scottish is. Because so much human history has been lost over time, any people are going to be very alien to us. I mean, most people didn't even know what a communist was if you do a certain quest. Like, the characters you play as don't know what a communist is. Even at one point, Cohen guessed they were a sort of posh cannibals.
I also know that that's a reference in one of the quests we'll get to later. I just remembered that.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil that quest because
Yeah.
it's actually a pretty interesting quest, and
Yeah.
once you've done that mission, I want to talk about how I got extremely lucky with a certain boss in that level.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. But Flynn is going to be a melee expert in the blunt and blade variety. He will also be your local tech guy with nerd stuff. And his final perk is hard ass.
Yeah, it's good to have an intimidation guy on our side.
And we went over a little bit of Flynn's backstory, but what do you think of the build so far as someone who's played the game?
Obviously, you could do whatever you want with the terms of the characters when you're progressing through the game, because having a melee expert is good for this sort of game. I also think maybe giving him, like, you don't have to max it out, but I'd say giving him, like, small arms or maybe another sort of ranged weapon perk would be kind of interesting. Maybe give him, like, the science stuff. He can use, like, scientific weapons.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, especially since he's going to be, like, the tech expert. Because he's going to, especially in the early points in the game, you're going to be facing more enemies that use guns and long-range weaponry, and here charging him with a rifle might not always work out, because enemies usually start off really far away, so unless he can get really lucky with the cover system, yeah, I'd say giving him a sidearm would also be kind of handy. You don't even need to max out. I'd say if you just keep it on him when, like, far away, but then when they get close enough, then he can just walk in and stab them. It also kind of makes sense for a Scottish to have, like, a bladed sort of weapon or blunt ones, given the whole Viking origin story that Scotland has.
Yeah.
And in terms of the tech stuff, like, as he explained it, because, you know, he grew up in a tough area and he's a tough guy, but deep down he's a very nerdy sort of tech person. That is kind of unique. You rarely ever find, like, a tough guy also being the nerdy sort of person.
And what do you do when you get bullied for being a nerd most of the time? You just sit there and take it. Flynn, I'ma punch your lights out.
Yeah. So it's he definitely stands out amongst, like, the nerdy characters, you could say.
I definitely feel like he's going to.
And so he's got melee weapon. He's also got a nerd trait, right? Nerd stuff.
Yeah.
What was his third one again? Hard ass. Yeah, actually, yeah,
hard
I
ass.
remember now. Hard ass. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be handy when you do a lot of, like, moments when you're talking to the villains, because if you can intimidate them, then you you could either have a good advantage in battle, or the villains will just straight up just like, I don't want to tackle with you.
That's fair. But I feel like Flynn is going to be an interesting guy. It'll be 1 second he's just stabbing someone's brain out, and then the second he's explaining how a satellite works. Well, you see, it goes around orbit and it sends these little radio signals. Are you paying attention?
I like that.
All right. Any questions about Flynn McAllister so far, or do you think you're good?
I think I'm good with this character. I'm very interested to see like how react with a lot of the docs type of mentalities.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to him probably trying to force amputation on Kier.
Mm-hmm. Well, plus you've also interacted with Kier a lot, so I think you two are going to bounce off each other quite well.
I mean, he's plotting to kill me in Among Us, so I'd imagine he's going to carry that sort of persona over to that game.
It'd be funny. All right. Let's move on to Damien's character, the one that nobody else has worked with besides me. Damien is playing... Go ahead.
No. I was literally going to say, so what is Damien's skit?
Damien is playing Genos. That's all we know of their name. Just Genos. We don't know their first name or their last name, but as explained in the Damien interview, I envision there's some history with Captain Fall and Genos. So that's going to be unraveled over time. Basically, this is your mysterious character of your team.
That's going to be kind of interesting, because if you play through some of the story modes you do for a certain faction, and you have a high enough lockpick, you can find this really mysterious guy called the Prestige. And he says nothing, but he follows your characters around, and he just carries a sidearm with him. He's basically like a humanoid pet, you know?
Yeah.
They're also a mysterious character. So the fact that we're going to have a mysterious character part of the Rangers, that's going to be also quite interesting.
And what more mysterious can you get than Genos' starting perks, which include sniping, animal handling, and survival.
All those seem to blend really well together.
I mean, to be fair, Damien picked it because they play a ranger in Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
And plus, apparently, Damien's also worked at an animal shelter before. That's why they picked animal handling second.
Cute.
But yeah, honest thoughts on the Genos stuff so far.
Well, Genos is going to be a mysterious character, so... Funny thing is, I'm picturing my guy's not going to really... Not so much care about it, but just never really questions it. Like... Maybe he finds out Genos has a mysterious wound on them, and when my guy questions it, they go like, that's something personal. My guy just goes, alright, fair enough, and just move on. Like, not even trying to further pressure the questions. Because, like, Wasteland 3 has a lot of weird sort of, like, enemies, characters, and factions. So, I feel like my guy's going to be just accustomed to just weird stuff and weird people.
Yeah.
And in terms of the perks, Animal perk is quite handy, especially when you get that Ranger cat that has the the Ranger hat, which I unfortunately lost in my playthrough, fighting clowns, and he blew up.
Rest in peace, Major Tomcat.
In peace, Major Tomcat. Yeah, it can come in handy, because if we ever do lose one of our animal pets, if you're at the ranger station, you could either just tame a dog or just tame a chicken to help you out in the future. And they're good for like doing a decent amount of damage on future enemies, especially on bosses, even though it's kind of funny to see like a little dog try and fight one of those like giant scorpion robotic mechs.
That's gonna be funny.
Sniper perk, I feel like that was one of the main things I wanted to get, because whether it be XCOM or any game in that sort of genre, Sniper's a good person to have on your team, because they can shoot at long range, and the further the enemy is away, the better the accuracy is. And in terms of the survivalist, yeah, I'd imagine if Genos is a very mysterious character, it would learn to mostly survive on their own away from like society or what's left of society in this game. And they're just mostly just trying to survive of like learn of the world they're in, learn how to deal with enemies and monsters and bandits. So it's really fitting.
Yeah. And of course, the big thing about Genos is going to be as time goes on, we're going to learn more about them. The only thing we learned in the Damien interview that I was willing to share what Genos' gender will be. And the pronouns they're going to be using are mostly they, them, with a little bit of she because Damien said she a few times.
Right, okay then. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Do kind of also like the mystery of that they're so mysterious you don't even know what gender they are. Now, obviously, in this day and age, assuming someone's gender is kind of considered a red flag. But what's kind of interesting about Wastelands, I think this took place like when the world ended. It took place in 1980s, and then 100 years passed, and it is now 2085. I could be mixing up the years wrong, but I'm pretty sure like it wasn't that modern era when the bombs fell on humanity. I
Yeah.
don't think iPhones existed.
But yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting, especially with this whole story of the Wasteland games, and also to see how Genos interacts with some things that you see from the past, obviously.
Hmm.
And any other thing about Genos before we move on to your final squad mate?
Um, yeah, I suppose I should ask this. When you have to choose your first two rangers, I'm assuming Genos is going to be the one of the custom ones you recruit when you reach the ranger station.
We are working with that because I know with Yang's character, they are going to stay behind because I'll bring that up when we talk about Yang's character. But yeah, at
Yeah.
first they were thinking that maybe Kier can stay behind, but then you bring up a good point that like we don't know a lot about Genos, so maybe Genos will be introduced after the initial mission.
I like the idea of like while the rangers are trying to fight off the Dorseys, like Genos is just watching in the distance, sort of like evaluating whether the rangers are suitable for the sort of mysterious journey that she's foregoing.
Yeah. And then speaking of Yang's character, we have Yang, whose character is going to be Yang the Insane Xiaolong, because shocker, Yang's a fan of Ruby.
I never would have gathered that. She was so subtle about it in her name.
But Yang's character, of course, is going to be kind of altered a little bit. We'll be talking more about the backstory of Yang's character when I write down stuff for them in episode 0. But their perks are pretty similar to the actual character it's based off of, with one exception. Yang's character will have the brawling skill, the explosive skill, and lockpicking.
Yeah, Brolin is definitely a very risky trait to have for a character. Oh, and my PC, and my computer screen just turned off. I was worried it shut down.
No, you're good.
Yeah, because when it comes to Brolin, and this could really be depend on the of like items you find. But specifically with my character, who I nickname Bricky Dave, who being the brawler of my team, there isn't too many Brolin type of items you find. Unless you look in specific spots, most of the time you'll be using a brawler item, the same one you found like probably 12 quests ago. Like, my guy only just recently got a new one after we just had the buzzsaw one for like 50% of our main playtime.
Yeah, RNG loot is going to be a lot of fun.
So I feel like having them be the explosive that's good. 'Cause if you're going to have a brawler character, you've got to give them a secondary weaponry because I won't be able to do jack with just their fist.
Ah, yes, explosives in this game, ranging from Molotovs to grenades to a rocket that can shoot like a nuke. Because that's one
Especially
of
when you
yeah,
especially when you do enough damage on enemies and you can use the special attack.
yeah. And friendly fire is a thing in Wasteland, so I expect Yang to blow at least one of you up.
Oh, that's comfort, and it's a good thing you have my character around.
It's just like they accidentally hit Kier's character with some shrapnel, and he's like, "Hey, what the fuck are you doing? Stop throwing bombs my way!"
Just for shits and giggles, this could be something funny that happens after a mission, and like, so she fires a rocket above me, and at first I seem like okay. Then when I'm back on the truck and I'm like, well, mission well done, guys. Someone points out one of my arms fell off, and I just go, oh yeah, yeah. Yang's rocket blew it off, and I need to get back to the range station quickly because I have actually lost way too much blood. In fact, I'd hardly even remember us having 12 people in this truck. Like, he doesn't realize his arm fell off until near the end of the mission. Or either that he was that determined to get the mission done that he didn't care he lost his arm.
Yeah.
An explosive expert is actually really good, is another good trait to have, because this is like in the early section of the game, you're going to come across a lot of minefields. Even one of the minor quests you can do at the very start of the when you reach Colorado's springs. Someone's shop has a mine literally placed in her shop that someone's trying to kill, and to get a few bonus XP, you can just disarm it immediately. I think you have to be like a level 2 explosive expert to do it. It's good to have that explosive expert, and of course you get access to the RPG weapons, which can really turn the tide in a lot of like random encounters on the open world.
They can for sure, because you never know what you'll find.
When you also customize your own specialized grenades, if you get the right buildable items, because you could make some really overpowered grenades.
It's just like, Yang,
Or as
what is
the
that?
doc would
Go ahead.
just going to joke saying, or as the doc would say, amputation ball.
I was gonna say, you just see Yang holding this weird custom bomb. Like, Yang, what did you make that out of? Oh, I just made this out of some tripwire, a Hershey bar, and a bag of noodles. I call it the noodle bomb.
I haven't actually made the noodle bomb yet. I think that's like an early weapon you can make.
I don't remember off the top of my head, to be honest.
There is a lot of customized weapons you can make in the customization menu. If you first time players are going to be overwhelmed.
Yeah. And then, of course, you have lockpicking as Yang's final skill.
Again, I've kind of briefly discussed that. That's also an important trait to have, because early on in the game and very, very later on into the game, you're going to come across so many like safes, secret areas that require a lockpick. Unless, of course, since we have melee experts, you can also just get characters to like punch down doors. And since Yang's going to be the brawler, I kind of like the idea. We come up to a door where she can't open with a lockpick, so she goes, "Don't worry, I have a special key," and she just punches down the door.
That's gonna be great if that does happen.
Just I like it again. I like it that I wasn't restricted to complete a quest. It's like you would be a bit better to lockpick it, but if you really do want to finish this mission early, you can just punch it down if you have a melee expert. Or even not that, you could literally just take away my gun and then just make. It takes a while because I'm not a brawler expert. You could just have me just punch down the door.
That's great. It's definitely gonna be a lot of fun.
There's going to be a lot of comedic moments, especially if we can't lockpick a door open. Yang just like, well, to do what I do best.
Punch the shit out of something. Or if that doesn't work, stand back. I got a rocket.
Yeah. Do you know what? Funny enough, I don't think the rocket actually destroys doors, unless you're in like a combat situation. Not only that, missiles are both expensive and rare in the Wasteland game, so probably best not to just go shooting those willy-nilly. It's like, as tempting as it is to shoot that radioactive ghoul over there, maybe we should just try and punch it to death.
Yeah. And now, any other questions about Yang's character so far?
I suppose kind of So I'm sure you've tried to convince her to try and do voice acting, but she's both not exactly
Oh yeah,
into getting.
I can go
She's
over
not
that.
into getting her voice online, and she's also not really in the best condition to speak.
Yeah, I've brought this up in both Kira and David's interview how we're gonna handle that. So pretty much, you know the intro of the game, how it starts, and why you start with two soldiers at first. So I'm gonna be using that scene to explain the scenario of what happened to Yang, and that'll tie in why Genos is there.
Ah,
We're gonna be using a text-to-speech kind of feature, but this text-to-speech box, since it was made by Kier, will also include funny medias from other sources such as JFK from Clone High and Tear of Grace are a few examples of other source materials I can use for lines.
it's funny. If you do go into edit with shortcut as well, don't you?
Yeah.
If you select the pitch audio and maybe have that in favorites, you can have it set so it sounds more feminine. So you could give her a feminine Tear of Grace voice.
That'd be hilarious. Just hear her curse as Sarah Grace, but in a more feminine style.
Yeah, so it's the pitch option. I can, if you do need directions, I'll show you because I've kind of experimented using a lot of the softwares in that editing software.
And to be fair, I did saturation like keyframing thing in the last Discuss Step Bow that got unnoticed.
Ah, that's sad.
It went unnoticed by you. What the hell are you talking about?
Pretty sure I saw it. Or maybe it's going to be like when I watch the rest of the podcast and then
No,
edit it down.
No, it was right before we talked about Goku Black versus Reverse Flash. I think when you go Hello Darkness, it just slowly goes towards the dark.
Oh, okay. Then, yeah, so that's probably going to be in the next part I upload.
Yeah. But if we have no more questions about the squad mates,
No, I think I'm good on it.
all right, why don't we talk about the mechanics and other aspects of Wasteland 3? You're more familiar with it than most, so I don't have to explain too much in detail.
I know, I've kind of got adjusted to how the game works, despite the fact if I was recording this, I knew nothing what I was doing. Like, in terms of leveling up my guys, I did shockingly awful, to the point I had to actually pay to get two of my characters re-put in their traits and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I had to retrain them just because, for some reason, I tried to give two people kiss ass because I thought if one person has two, but then someone has eight, that other perk would carry over to that exact same person. No, the game didn't work like that.
Yeah. It was the thing in
Yeah,
Wasteland
so-
2, oddly enough. Like, your character's combined scores sometimes would equal something.
So I feel like they must have changed that because it would have gotten a bit too overpowered. That you could almost get away with so much in the game that you shouldn't be.
Right. So, one of the biggest things in Wasteland that a lot of the other actors are looking forward to when it comes to writing the dialogue is the faction system.
Yeah, that's I feel like for a game like Wasteland 3, that is the most important aspect because, and it can even alter how the game could end and how it could benefit you in the future.
Yeah, because like you start out neutral to pretty much every faction, and then as time goes on, we'll be talking in like a group chat thing when we're writing audio and voice lines for the game about how you guys want to handle everything. Your choices are gonna matter.
Because when I was playing my version of the game, I was trying to be as neutral amongst everything. Like, obviously, I would arrest people, but I also try to be as pacifistic as I could. Try and spend most of my time being like a good sort of police officer, and even generous towards like the refugees. Because in the game, without spoiling too much of the story, the Patriots or Patriarch, they have a lot of refugees that come in because the game says it's a wasteland, and if you can find that one sanctuary where you can get food, water, and shelter, you will take it. Unfortunately, this small little city doesn't have as much room for refugees as they do, but I also try and help my best to help out that group because they're starving people.
Yeah, it'll definitely feel like it's up to your group to decide how you want to handle things for sure.
And what's kind of awkward about it as well is that if you choose to help out more of the refugees, that could alter your like relationship with the patriarch. Because there's the kind of double-edged sword of it is that these people are under a dictator. So naturally, I would imagine if this was during the Wasteland 2 era, we would have just marched on down and killed the patriarch and just taken over and these people. But the problem is, in the main story, you need the patriarch to help your people in Arizona. So if you fail, those people back there will die. It's like, how far will our morality go to the point? Do we just take the knee to a dictator and just do what we can till we get what we need, or do we try and put one faction in trouble just to save another?
Right, that's gonna go against a lot of morals, most likely, especially when we bring in these guest characters.
The thing is kind of good as well, though, is that no side is really that wrong in what they do, but they're not also right either, because as more gets revealed of what the Patriarch did to help their people, you then also unravel what they did was really messed up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which I'm not going to spoil because it is really messed up when you're like, I did one quest where I thought it was just a simple, oh, find out what happened to his family. And when you find out what happened to the family, you're like, oh. Oh.
Yeah.
The most simplest of quests could just end up becoming some weird, messed up story moment.
Yeah, and with that faction stuff out of the way, some of these guest characters are from different factions as well. One of the biggest one, and I've talked to Damien last night about this because one of those characters is someone we bring up a lot. Quan, for example, was a former member of the Marshals.
Yeah, Quan I do kind of like because the thing that's kind of funny, he even admits at one point that he also this is going to be a shock to a lot of people. Marshals are clearly a corrupted government. Even though that kind of gets revealed in like the very first mission. But Quan was like not too corrupt, but he was still corrupt as well. Like, if you paid him enough, he would look away from a fight or theft. He's also against murder though. As when you talk to a lot of the locals, they kind of respect Quan.
Yeah, and of course,
Yeah, that's
characters.
what I'd say.
Yeah, I was gonna say characters like Quan are gonna be having a guest voice appearance every so often. Mostly because I know there's one quest where you have to do either or, and having someone voice their opinion on an either or solution based off their own morals might affect your decision as well.
What's kind of different with these sort of characters over your custom ones is that if you do something that is against the sort of group that you know helped out, but then you could do something that offends them, they might get really angry at you for it.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting mechanic as well to try to balance as well, depending on the actions of us, pretty much.
Yeah, I guarantee you, especially as you get further and further into the story and you end up meeting a certain ranger character, and she kind of puts you in a tough spot of what you need to do, and that can actually affect your relationship with both Quan and a lot of people who support the Patriarch. You kind of know what character I'm talking about or referencing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be, and I'm looking forward to also when it comes to those really hard decision type of jobs, like for instance, when you had to choose how do you save one of the patriarch's children, or do you even let them die? I like the idea of us debating it. Some of us being like not really caring, but then some of us actually saying like, no, we have to do it.
Yeah, that's gonna be.
You don't really.
Good.
You don't really get that with your squad really, unless you have like a companion with you. Most of the time, your custom characters will just agree to everything you're doing, even if it means like murdering a massive amount of innocent people.
You gotta have someone to lead you guys on the right path at some point. But besides the guest characters, as you know, Wasteland's an open world game. One of the things I know Damien's looking forward to seeing is how the car is going to function as a
Yeah,
companion.
yeah. What's funny as well is that the car is a okay. I'm not going to spoil too much of this quest because you do find a character called Morning Star, which is an AI, and you can actually choose to save this car and put it into your car, and then your car has a personality, which is kind of unique because the car is essentially its own personality as well. Especially when you're in the open world, have a random encounter, your car can also join in on the fight. Depending on what weapon you have for it, it can be the most overpowered teammate. uh, Even when you're fighting humanoid enemies, and if they're close enough, you could just instantly run them over. No matter what their health is, you could just instantly run them over and kill them.
Yeah, and also, not only will dialogues be taking place on like loading screens while you're walking around, but so driving banter is going to be fun, and you guys have to figure out who's driving that thing.
I kind of like the idea of the AI mostly driving the car because I think the AI is what drives it, and then the people in the back are just. Oh wait, no, no. In the opening cutscene, you do see rangers driving their cars. Okay. Oh yeah, I guess we could have people drive. I'd say honestly, I like the idea of Quan driving because you either have to rely on a Scottish man who's clearly a bit of a psycho with his melee weapons, a mysterious character who you're not sure where they're going to drive us, a cat in a ranger hat, a girl with a rocket launcher, and a psychotic medic who doesn't even seem to care if his arm gets blown off.
Well, at least the driver can control the radio.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's one of the
You know,
biggest.
I just recently thought
Go ahead.
what could be funny. Maybe at some point we accidentally get a K-pop music video, and we're just all listening like, I heard this music before. And my guy's just like, I think this might be some sort of Morse code. Oh, why? I dig it, even though I don't understand it. K-pop fans in a nutshell.
But no, with the open world aspect, you guys are going to go to a lot of places. Colorado Springs and Denver are real life locations, for example. One of the ones I'm looking forward to the most, you guys going to, is the Bazaar. And I think that's going to be really funny to see your reactions to seeing that.
Oh yeah, and there are some funny quests in the Bazaar. Especially the enemy factions there. What's funny is that like in Colorado Springs, there's the Dossiers, which are crazy cultists like butchers that worship. I can't remember what it was, but they're just crazy murderers that just enjoy killing and blowing things up. And you would expect that sort of group in a Wasteland type of game. Sometimes you run into bandits. There's also slave traders, but the enemy factions in the Bazaar are bizarre.
That hence its name.
Yeah, it's like both the civilization there is bizarre, especially when you do a certain quest for a very erotic group, we'll say the least. Then you find out the enemy factions is just they're bandits, but they're kind of a unique bandit group. In fact, if you've watched Sean's Let's Play of it, you'll kind of already see them.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. 'Cause you never did take them completely out, did you?
I forget where we left off, honestly, on the playthroughs that never made it to YouTube.
Fair enough.
But seeing you guys interact with the world, like, not just as your characters, but also as some of the actors have never played, it's going to be like, oh, wow, look at this. And plus, the DLC we're also going to be covering, of course, including the expansion that's coming on October 5th.
There's a lot of things dropping on October 5th. Even they're revealing the last Smash character.
Yeah, I'll probably look at the last Smash character and then hop on the Nick All-Star Brawl. But you know what's not dropping October 5th is when the series is going to start, because all I'm waiting on is just art, and then we're good to go. And yes, you guys will be seeing the art of your characters when they are done.
It's nice.
But I believe we've covered everything that I feel like we should for now, because I got to keep some surprises, not just about the game for people who's never seen it, because my audience has gotten bigger since when I started playing that game.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to reveal a lot of the surprises, and especially if we get to the last point in that game, and I want to try and complete the main story just so that I can kind of help with like, because I feel like most of the time it's going to be you and me trying to fill in the lore towards Damien and Kier.
Yeah. And of course, when the project starts, I'll start like a Discord call or something of all the actors that are going to be voicing characters and everything. But we'll talk more about that when it starts later. But thank you, folks, for enjoying the interview. We went on longer than expected, but that's because Bill knows so much about the game, honestly.
Yeah, it was kind of hard not to spoil a lot of the quests because there are some good quests in this game. Ones, like I just said, could start as a simple quest, like just picking up an item, looking for some evidence, but then there's a lot of twists and turns in this game. It's bizarre.
Well, thank you, Bill, for coming on. I appreciate it, and of course, I appreciate any of the actors coming on. If people want to find you anywhere else besides not voicing Billy the Doc Bobby, where can they find you?
You can look me up on Billy Bobby, and I play mainly horror games, but I also play either meme games and just any game that appeals to me. But I also stream on Twitch at Billy Bobby as well. And I'm sure Sean will leave a link to both those in the description. And I stream every Friday. Currently, I am streaming Resident Evil 6. That game's not making me angry at all. Not at all.
Welcome to how I felt playing that game. And you wonder why I hate Resident Evil 6.
You bought me that for Christmas.
I'm like, you know what? Bill's got to play this eventually. Here you go. Go through my pain.
I treated her as like, oh, how generous. And after Chris's campaign, I'm like, I bloody hate this game.
Well, again, check out any links in the description to go find Bill. And like how I want to end every interview, Bill, go ahead and finish the interview with whatever you want to say.
If you're ever in town and you need an arm replaced, better than Billy the Doc Bobby.